be famous. You'll be reviled.
Do you think in a way though that is a setback to men, especially black men, who you can't show emotion, or you can't do that.
I wouldn't say you can't show as much as you can't act on.
But then you got to think about the black. You got to think about the black family, though, Maurice. You know,
Yeah.
you got to think about the black family. Some uncles, even some pops.
Well, that's a problem. We should be able to show it, but
but you can't. But you can't now put a barrier on somebody's emotion. Though. That's what you can. If you tell it, you can. I can't now place my emotion in some other type of, or just put a barrier around it to coax you. That's not. Then that's doing nothing for my emotion. That's fucking me up even more.
That's true. Well, that's for men. I think that's men in general, though. If you want to be blanket, like men, we know if we get too deep into feeling a vulnerable way about something, we feel like that'll be taken in account later when in another instance when it's time to weigh who's strong. Like, but he cried there. Like, we try to pick the captain of the team, but Maurice was tearing up at Bambi. Like, I don't know if I want him to be leading the team up, yo.
But yeah, no, and especially with the black family too, black men. Yeah, you can't be emotions. You can't you can't feel that shit or be in touch with that shit.
That's ignorant though. Like, what does that spend?
Absolutely.
What is that? I think that all stems from feminine and masculine. All stems back to that.
But everything is
to
taught.
show emotions considered feminine.
Everything is taught, bro. Everything is taught, and everything is not so far removed. So I think it's from the 20s and the 30s and shit, especially when that culture, especially the jazz and speakeasies and gays rights and shit that started being a little bit more prevalent, and there had to be a separation of that you are this or you not that, and that was just kind of you had to show that, and then that shit stopped. So the men taught that to their sons.
Yeah.
And that was just because you gotta be a man, you gotta do this so that you're a man. And then that taught that to that sons, and then that taught that to that sons. That's all that shit is. It's just a cycle.
Yeah, I hear that. But that's the social construct of it. But what about the biological construct? Because I always feel like all these things always stem from some type of instinct. Because otherwise we would have swayed away from it as nature when it first started happening.
That's all you live and all you're taught. How else what are you supposed to do?
Yeah. I hear what you're
saying. If when you do show emotion, you're beaten, punished, or called a sissy, what else do you do? What else do you do?
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I just feel like it has to be deeper than that. I feel like in order for human beings to overcome these type of these type of social constructs that permeate all type of cultures. Like every culture has this innate fear of homosexuality, of the effeminate man. Rarely are they freaking put in a high pedestal place. And even the greats who are found to be more effeminate than we thought, or then kind of demonized or put on a lower tier. So where's that coming from? I feel like it has to come from some biological understanding of reproduction, and that these men do not want to reproduce. They do not want women. That is not, and the way they're acting is not conductive to having intercourse. Therefore, they're weaker. I think it's that simple, and I think in the root nature, we're always dealing with the simple man. We're not dealing with educated people when we're talking about base ideas for society. We're dealing with the simple dummy. And what's driving the simple dummy? Sex, drugs, and food. It's probably more than that, but I know freaking sex is always up there. So why do we think that any type of feminine nature is any type of showing of weakness? Like a gay man can't whoop ass. If a gay man's 6'8" and he's 290, he's gonna beat some ass, regardless of how he acts. Oh, that's what you think. That's what you think.
What you about to say?
It's a football player who just came out as being gay. His
First
name
openly
is
gay football player. Yep.
Michael Sam was openly gay before, but go ahead.
Nah, he was openly gay, but he ain't lasted in the league. Like this dude, Nassau.
Mm-hmm.
He's a starter, or he was a top player for Penn State. Plays for Oakland Raiders now. Just came out today or last night as being openly gay. But with the whole emotional thing, it's like if when people are emotional, like how long? Like it's no limit, but like how long should they be in a bag? So say if I broke up with Nicole, if I talk to y'all niggas about Nicole every day, you be like, yo, shut up. You know what I mean? It's like how long do you want me to go on about being so emotional? Like I'll tell you once, like nigga, move on. All right, cool, I get it.
But see,
but it's like
for me, like being a Cancer, I feel like you can feel when a person is off of center. Like when you're going through the normal process of grieving, you lose somebody, you're gonna grieve. But after a while, it's like, nah, you've lost yourself. Like you're not sane right now. You know.
Yo, Tim. By the way, I'm sorry, Eric. Not to cut you off. No, Eric, you come in real quick. Tim, by the way, Maurice says that he's not emotional. Eric, you can go.
I'm not. I'm far from it. I'm far from it. But go ahead.
I mean, so it's like even like I don't know. Like for me, I can say that I can be emotional, but I'm not emotional. So say for example, like when my dad died, I was emotional for a little bit, but it's like, I gotta move on. You know what I mean? I gotta do what I gotta do for myself and to make him happy. You know what I mean? So I can't in my bag all the time. Like I just can't stop my life because someone else passed away. And in my opinion, I think a lot of people may like so say for example, when a person passes away and a person just like balling out, like I'm thinking like to myself, like nigga, did you really have a good relationship with that person when that person passed away? Because if you end on good terms, like you got nothing to worry about. Like in my opinion, I feel like you did all that you could, and y'all ended on good terms, so you don't have nothing to be concerned about. You know what I mean? It's like you said that person's gone, but in your power, you did everything that you could.
And the way I think about it's like it's self-serving when you do it for too long. Like allow yourself to be natural, but when you do all that sobbing and all that person's gone. They're not watching.
But you can't tell somebody how to grieve.
Man, that's how I feel.
You can't tell somebody how to grieve.
That's how I feel. You're lost.
No, I get.
You're lost
I get what
in
you're
it.
saying.
And it's okay to lose your mind. It's okay to lose your mind. And I'll accept that a person is temporarily insane. But that's what you are for that time being.
Thank you for your approval on that you can do it for just a short amount of time. Get back to us and let us know that window of time so we can figure it out later.
If you don't never come back, you'll never come back.
I understand your dad died. I understand.
I understand. But you have 2 weeks, nigga. You got 2 weeks. 2 weeks and 2 days, nigga. Man, the fuck up. 2 weeks and 2 no, nigga. That's not part of the manual, nigga.
Right.
No, but I get what you're saying though. Like when people wild out and shit sometimes, like you think like, well, nigga, like come on, like they're like, but like I feel like sometimes though, they're like, like I said, like I said just before, like you can't tell somebody how to grieve. So like if you miss somebody and like that's just like say like in your situation, like when your pops died, if you were going crazy because like I know the relationship that you had with your pops. That is just how you were grieving, and that is what you were doing at that point in time because that's what you need to release. I don't think it's like, well, I just think like, especially when like I said, just when it comes to black men, that like just how you have to show emotion, and it's not just black men. I'm not just saying it's men like you said, it's men of all different cultures, and everybody has it. But it's just I can just say because that is just what I identify the most, and that is what I've seen the most in my life. But that with black men, it's something that like. Is something that you have to like hold your emotion to some extent or not completely.
But when is it healthy? When is it healthy to show the emotion, and when is it unhealthy to live in that emotion? And that's
why
the balance.
Why is it ever unhealthy to live in your emotion?
Because you start becoming unproductive. You stop living. You start living in the past. It happened already. Whatever hurt you has happened and gone. If it's still going on,
is that emotion though? See, I don't feel like what you're saying is that's not emotion.
What do you mean?
I think it's like the shock. Like if your granddad died and he was old, you kind of like they old, you kind of expected they passed, and I think if they're younger and they have more to live for and it was more unexpected, people are kind of like more in shock.
We're talking specifically death right now. Death is one specific thing that happens and it's done, and you can't change death. But like, so take my situation when I was like depressed for like a year over when I found out my son wasn't mine, and I stuck in that emotion for a long time. Greg will tell you, I lived in it over the limit of a healthy point. I dwelled in it, but I was dwelling in the past. But it was something that was continuously going on. It didn't happen and stop. It was a relationship that continued to go. So as I got over the initial sadness, other things would happen that would cause sadness. So I was basically chasing the negative emotion, basically keeping around the source that was going to cause negative emotion rather than cutting off the source of constant negativity. So it's a matter of when is it unhealthy to allow your emotion to control you? Because my emotion kept me attached to her, but my emotion also was every amount of stress eventually started coming from that one individual. That the emotion of love and commitment also kept on revolving to the emotion of pain and hurt. So it became unhealthy to even give a fuck about emotion and just not give into logic and say, look, it's been X amount of years. This person's done X negative things. They've done X positive things. Forecast what's going to turn out in the long run of this. Nothing good. Eventually, logic had to override the emotions. So when does it become?
Just because you're emotional or you're living off emotional doesn't mean you don't have to take care of your shit.
So that's I'm not saying exactly. There you go.
But no, but you have to take care of your shit. You can't. I'm not saying you can't just fully live off your emotion. Like you have a responsibility. You have shit to do. Like you have to do what you have to do. You can't fully live off of emotion. So, no, absolutely. That's not what somebody should do.
Feeling and acting, and then so we're drawing back to what we were talking about originally: feeling emotion and acting on emotion. And this is where I feel men and women differ, and this is where an emotional man gets in trouble. Because if you act on emotion as an emotional man, you end up in a situation that you don't want to get in. A woman can a woman act on emotion and prosper in life all the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think way too often.
That is cool. What woman is that?
Affirmative action.
The masculine woman.
Affirmative action.
The alpha woman. Okay. Straight fact.
So it's like eventually we as men learn if you're going to make it as a successful man or a man that has his own, is not dependent on other people to provide for him. You learn that when it hurts, you can deal with the hurt. Sometimes men learn to suck it up and not process it at all, but you learn you cannot act off that shit solely. That cannot be your driving force to do negative shit. It could be a driving force to do positive shit, though. Shit. There's plenty of men that use fucked up emotion to do fucking productive shit throughout their life.
Music. Straight facts.
Man. Self-hate is a great motivator. Yeah. Self-hate is Michael Jordan.
Even before that shit, like old school, like Otis Redding. Oh yeah. All that shit. Like, it was about niggas was hurt.
But
dealing with shit.
When is it healthy? Is that healthy? Just because they gave us great music, was it healthy for them?
Yeah.
The music might have been healthy, but living in that emotion wasn't healthy.
Most of the time.
Some of the time.
But some of the time, like when you hear like people like Mary J.
Sam Cooke, he gone.
Singing like old, like their old songs that like bring pain. Like some people like don't like when they get older, they don't like to sing certain songs. So I do get what you're saying about that.
The music was therapy.
Those emotions.
Like a lot of these guys were sad, depressed people. The music was therapy.
Absolutely.
Like so we can't even say like we're talking about like healthy men processing emotion. Just because they were great doesn't mean that they were healthy.
My nigga, who are you on this health trip right now? This nigga.
Listen, I've been trying, bro. I've been trying.